just off the tape, anything that kind of stood out to you different that you thought from the live game? Anything maybe was good, bad, etc.?
Well, first off, let's just start out happy Veterans Day. I obviously appreciate everyone being in this room, but special appreciation to all the men and women that have served. Our own Brian Foote, voluntary offensive coach, is a former Marine, so very proud of that today. So excited to be here and honor that. The tape, it's never as good, it's never as bad. I think when you look through some of the stats, you see obviously the rushing and you're very happy with it, and then you nitpick and you're like, man, we should have finished a little bit better. It was our highest loaf game on offense, even though we had that type of success. So I think our guys are competitive. They came back this morning wanting to get better. Defensively, the last play leaves a sour taste in your mouth, right? But we held that offense to 2 explosive plays over 20 yards, right? And they came in averaging 5+. So there were some really positive things, 2 takeaways. The kicking game, I think, was solid. So a lot of positive things to take there, and 9 games are over, and we're on to the next one.
Obviously, we saw Rod got the nod at left guard. What was it at the end of the day that kind of convinced you guys that, you wanted to go with him over Christian?
I think it's always going to continue to be a battle, and it's been a discussion even Sunday. How did they play? How did Brock play? I mean, what's the right mix and magic? And trying to find some consistency there we do feel is important. But no one's really taken the reins, of that position. So it'll kind of be game to game, day by day, and we'll continue to work through it that way.
And then you mentioned Brock. It just feels like maybe to the eye test, he's maybe been the most consistent offensive lineman in terms of the combination of pass blocking and run blocking. Where have you kind of seen him grow from kind of, being in and out last year's rotational guy at times to really being a full-time, lockdown starter this year?
Consistency. I mean, I think if you ask anybody in our building, you talk about Brock Dew, you're going to hear consistent. And that's an approach, it's in mindset, it's in technique, and you just know what you're going to get. And I think at offensive line, it's a really good, way to describe a guy. And he's just been solid there. And, he was a little bit banged up with a little ankle thing that I thought he worked through very well in this last game, and we'll get him healthy for this next week. But we need consistent play through that offensive line, and he's been one of those guys.
I want to ask about 2 guys. I noticed Trey was not dressed out, and then Wayshawn, I think his last carry was early in the third quarter. What are their statuses right now?
Yeah, I mean, I meet with the athletic training after this. Trey was out with a little heel contusion, I think they call it. We're very hopeful for him this week, and so far I feel pretty good about Wayshawn.
And then I'm curious about Cooper. I'm pretty sure he is the leading tight end scorer in WSU history. At his relatively smaller size for a tight end, what makes him such a versatile kind of weapon in that game for you guys?
Well, he's been great in the red zone. There's been those moments where he's really succeeded. He's just been taking his game to the next level, and we actually played Trey Lechner more than we have in most of the game and thought he did a good job. But Coop's versatility. He can go in line and block. He can split out and block and run routes. And those are the type of tight ends that we want to continue to recruit and get here. We haven't really refilled that position as much. We've stayed with some of these older guys, and that'll be a big focus going forward. But, Coop's just been ultra consistent, has been kind of nagged by hamstring injuries most of his career. That has not come up this year because he's had a focus of taking care of his body, and he's prepared the right way, and he's gotten tremendous results, and we need those type of guys in the red zone, and that's why our efficiency has been really good down there.
When we talked to Kyle and Buddha after the game, kind of about what's coming up, they said they kind of like going on the road, just stirring the pot in someone else's house. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of the mentality for a lot of the guys? I know obviously a home game is awesome, but going on the road, it doesn't seem like it fazed those 2 guys at least.
Well, I think it's a new and different challenge. I think that's the way the guys look at it. We'll play them on a hay field, a grass field, it doesn't matter where we play. We got to have the same mentality. And sometimes when you do something, you go on the road, kind of shows the makeup of your football team. So obviously another 7:30 game, kind of a wait around day on Saturday. But what separated our game when we really watched it here was our guys just having the competitive energy to go out there and play. And I thought that was evident from the moment we took that field. And it's the same way you have to have with that type of urgency on someone else's field.
As far as New Mexico, just their season has looked a little bit inconsistent. Just they're letting Wyoming get maybe 49 points on them, but then they're holding other teams to just a couple scores. Does that make it hard to kind of plan for them, or what do you see from them going into this?
This is a team on the rise. I would say there's no doubt about it. Coach Mendenhall is well respected, not just by me, but in our profession. Got an opportunity while he was out of it for a while to sit down and talk with him on some of his podcasts, and just an amazing human being. Obviously, Coach Mark was with him for a very long time, speaks just the world of him, how he coaches, how he motivates, and you can see that he's building something. And when you build something, it takes a little while to kind of see the fruits of your labor. And those early games, we're setting a foundation. I think he might be doing the best job of the country of utilizing their personnel. This quarterback is a problem. Okay, he has more yards from scrimmage than John does, right? And hopefully that wakes everybody up. Like, this guy is real. He's shorter. He's super fast. He has one of the highest explosive play rates in the country. Number 6 at tailback has been really, really good. And they run a wildly unique scheme. Right? This is something that you just don't see every day. So they're fitting – he's doing what great coaches do and fitting the scheme to the players, right? And then defensively, I think they started out – Coach Mendenhall's background is 3-3, okay? And they started off in the 4-2-5. Guess what they're running now? The 3-3. Guess why they're playing better? They're running the 3-3. And I just think that's what fits their personnel. And, you just see them continue to rise and get better. Obviously went down to San Diego State, got a huge win. They want to play for a bowl game. They know what's on the line. We know what's on the line. It's going to be a hell of a football game down there.
Yeah, Coach, I was going to ask that question. So New Mexico, they need to win their last 2 games. I mean, they don't have a great record, but what is it like playing against a team that still has something to play for? And
I don't care about their record. It's 0-0, and we're both going for the same things. And this is a team that you can tell they're hungry. You can tell the way they play. They're hungry. They're playing hard. Right? That was different, maybe than some of the other teams that we've played in those type of positions. I mean, these guys, they want to do something. Going to a bowl game after not being very successful the last 4 years is a huge step in what they're trying to build down there. And obviously, us coming in. Ranked football team, I mean, we're going to get their best, and our best will be required. There's no doubt about it. So, I mean, this scheme on offense can make you look bad really quick. They make you get your guys down there, then all of a sudden, boom, right? I think they had 4 plays over 60 yards against Wyoming. So you got to be fit, you got to play with energy, and you got to take advantage of some of your matchups on offense.
Talking about you guys, if my math's right, it's like week 12 plus all the fall camp that you guys have had. How do you make sure that practice isn't monotonous and you guys are getting better each week?
Yeah, I talked about that with the captains last week, just some things that we can kind of interject some life into practice a little bit. And you got to be really artful this time of year. I mean, the good on good does dial back, right, because those are your most competitive periods. Make sure you're getting the looks that you need to be successful, keeping them fresh. And then while just mixing some things up. I'm a huge routine guy. That's the way I love to operate. But I know 18 to 23, you got to try to keep some things fresh and fun and energizing. So, we'll try to mix those things as we go through these last 3 weeks.
Coach, you talked about, you don't like to focus on the rankings. You want to focus on what you guys are doing. You also said, though, you guys know what you're playing for. How do you balance those things in terms of not focusing on that too much, but also, knowing this is good for the program and wanting to fight for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I get those questions a lot. And I think in week 4, it's like it doesn't matter at all. I think when you get to this point in the season, if you want to achieve your goals, like these are the things that you want to have happen. But you can't keep an eye on it. You just got to stay true to the little things. And if we do simple better than New Mexico, we'll go out of there with a win. And if we don't have a score expectation in our mind and we need to do a certain thing that we just need to go out there and do our job, we're going to win. Right? And that's the mentality. Like, you got to go out there and make it happen one play at a time. And as soon as you get, worried about the pass play or the next play, that's when you get beat. Right? So that's what we're focused on right now. The little things it takes to win. And, those got to show up every day, and it starts in tonight's walkthrough.
Turnovers early in the season had been an issue for John. He seems like the last couple games have been much better. Just what have you seen from him growth-wise this season?
Well, I just think he shows up wanting to always get better. And I think, anytime your leader, your quarterback has that type of mindset, he's never satisfied or settled. I think that's where you can see that type of growth. And he's just done an unbelievable job taking ownership in his mistakes. And quarterbacking is hard. There's no doubt about it. This is the hardest thing to do in all of sport. And for him to play it at this level this early in his career is just phenomenal. I think John Mateer is one of the best 10 quarterbacks in the country. I think he's the best quarterback in the West Coast, in my opinion. right? And I say that very firmly. So I think he's going to continue to grow and get better. And there's just some things he does. I mean, that little finding Kyle in the back corner off the scramble, incredible. He ripped one to Kyle in the red zone. We showed it to the team this morning. That was just, it's like he was turning two, right? You know, he's a shortstop, right? And just came out of there like a rope. So he's doing some amazing things, and we need to do everything we can, you know, for John and to keep him here.
Into this game, you said that the Rod, one of his strengths at left guard was in the run game, and of course, you know, you guys get over 300 yards on the ground. What role did he play in that success, and just the whole line altogether?
Yeah, I mean, I do think we had a better mentality to fire off the ball, right? Finishing aspects, those are the little things that we really nitpicked. Could have had some really explosive plays, just kind of finishing. But there's a mentality that our whole line and our whole program needs to have. You can't win the ball if you don't want to get your hand in the dirt and fire off and knock somebody off the ball. So that's offense, defense, special teams. So I think Rod did a good job. He brings that. That is a strength of his that we got to continue to utilize.
And then John said that Wayshawn had been down on himself a little bit, just, you know, not being able to find the end zone the last several weeks. But of course, he finds it twice this last week. How have you seen him handle the kind of the ups and downs of a freshman year like that?
I mean, I think we continue to work with him. You know, I think it's hard, right? You know, in high school, you touch the ball 30-plus times a game, and you have tons of success. And just understanding that what I said after the game I meant in an explosive offense. And, you know, sometimes they're going to sit back and we need to run it for 300. Sometimes they're going to be ultra aggressive and we need to be great in the pass game. And then it's Kyle and Carlos and Chris and Josh. And I think our offense has taken its turn. I mean, Josh had a huge Apple Cup. So it's just one of those things where you got to be mature to the work, whether it's Wayshawn or Kyle Williams or anyone else in our program. It's about the team, you know, and I think the best cultures have that and understand that. And everyone's going to kind of have their day and appreciate that and, you know that's part of what we're trying to do here.
I think it was right before John's kind of QB draw touchdown. He does the kind of little quarterback draw first, pulls it back and tosses it to Wayshawn, who almost gets in. Is that by design or is that John just improvising?
No, that is by design. I mean, he has, you see people do the quarterback powers or counters that you're blocking the leverage defender, you know, just by running a route, right? And so your eyes are kind of on him, right? And then he stayed with them, but then the improvising part was John kind of getting off it and running and then coming back to it late. That was very improvised, right? So heck of a play by those two guys.
How much do you think that can be weaponized? Kind of, it seems like teams have maybe started to catch on a little bit to the straight-up quarterback draw. How much do you think that can maybe force them to stay honest and not just crash when they see John kind of take that step?
Well, you're seeing a lot of spy. I mean, there's no one that's just rushing John, and I think that's helped our pass protection, you know, so making him try to be a pocket passer of those type of things and taking away some of the empty stuff that we're doing and forcing him to do a couple different things with the ball. But at the end of the day, when you have that threat back there, it's tough on defense. It's just so tough. So it will continue to make his designed runs, his scramble plays, his pocket passing. I mean, his sprint game is getting better and better. So there's a lot of things that he just presents a real challenge.
You mentioned Trey. Obviously, we saw him get more snaps and get more looks. What is it that he's done kind of in throughout the season to kind of get that increased role to where he was playing almost as many snaps as Coop on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, just we sit in these meetings and we just say, like, trust it. As coaches, you know, I mean, Coop's a known commodity. And there's a couple of different positions we talk about that at. But, like, Trey's earned it. He's practiced well. I mean, he catches the ball. He's a real threat. And he plays really hard. Okay, 2 big plays. He went and got one of the fumbles from Chris Hudson, and he was the guy that was down the field when they batted the ball out of the end zone playing really, really hard, right? So you do that. You put it on tape. You gain more confidence. So, you know, we kind of challenged him when he gets out there to take advantage of his opportunities, and I thought he did that.
I have another PFF stuff for you.
Okay, I thought you were going to ask me about the punt.
No.
Okay.
Well, do you have like an update on that?
Oh, I got an update for you.
I would love to hear it.
Okay, all right. I appreciate that, Greg. First off, illegal motion, step back, didn't get set, right? Should have been called. Second thing, illegal shift. You can't shift and create an eligible number from the line of scrimmage, okay? Number 2. Number 3, no one has any idea of the rule if it's pass interference or not, okay? We called people in the SEC. We called people in the Big Ten, all right? So this needs to be clarified, and I mean this because here's the spirit of the rule. On punt return, our guys are blocking their guys, right? you can't just throw the ball and say that's pass interference. That's the spirit of the rule, right? So whether you're throwing it wide to the gunners and simulating punts or you're throwing vertical balls to the inside, to me, the spirit of the rule, there's no pass interference on punt plays. Right? Those kids can't determine that. That's why you have that rule, so you just can't see somebody blocking, throw it at them, and say you have a PI, right? So I think what we did was great, but there's gray area here, right? All the way from, the coordinator of officials a little bit in the Pac-12 to, like, nationally, like, I think there needs to be kind of a referendum sent out to every coach, like, what is the exact rule? Because if we're determining it based on the flight of the ball, that's not good, right? So it just needs to be really clarified. And to be honest, it was the Patriots in the playoffs that took advantage of all the, like, tackles split out at wide receivers, Creighton eligibles, and then the NFL just shut it down. College football is now getting to, like, Dan Lanning's great, right? They got linemen scoring touchdowns off gate plays, right? You just can't see who's eligible, who's not. It's getting really hard to defend this stuff. And people are doing it more because you can't officiate it. Well, you can't. That's a hard spot for these guys to officiate. Who's on, who's off, who's eligible, who's not. It's a punt play. All these numbers can catch the ball. Like, there's just a million things that are really challenging. I think they can really look hard at it and clean our game up a little bit.
They were going to send that into somebody. Who did you send that into?
David Coleman's the head of the officials for the Pac-12, right? So we send it to them, and I'm going to get a hold of Steve Shaw. He's the national coordinator of officials, and just make sure, like, I'm going all the way up the chain to make sure we're coaching it right. Moku did exactly what we asked him to do, and I'm going to get real clarity on that.
My PFF question was going to be, you mentioned Rod, kind of his role in the running game. He actually, with your guys, at least for PFF, you guys are the lowest graded run blocker for Saturday's game.
How do you think PFF knows what he's supposed to do?
This is the big question.
This is the big question. I'm asking you.
No, I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't know. Do I grade him? Does Caster grade it and send it into PFF?
I have no idea.
I just wonder how they do it.
Same. Anyway, just like what I mean, would you disagree with that, or what's kind of your assessment of hearing about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they include as a good play or bad play. I know how we grade it. I know how we felt like we did not finish to what we're capable of at the offensive line. There's times we played high, and that's all positions. This isn't Rod, so they can have their opinion on it. We'll state ours.
Last thing for me, you mentioned John going a few games without a turnover. I think it's 3 in a row now. When you look back to just game 1 to going into game 10, where is this kind of comfort level at, and is that what kind of role does that play in him kind of avoiding those turnovers?
Oh, I think his confidence is through the roof. I think you come into this season believing. Right? Then you got to test it. Then you got to go through ups and downs. Then you got to reaffirm it. Then you got to work more. Then you got to believe harder. I just think he's in a state of just extreme confidence in his game. Yet, he's really humble to it. Knowing we had a post race that he threw to Chris that Kyle's wide open on the post. My eyes weren't right. So I think there's still tons of things that he wants to get better at. And, we just got to keep playing to his strengths. I think that's what we've done better the last 3 weeks as a coaching staff. Really identifying after that first bye week, here is what John does really well. Not what we like, what John does well. And I think that's what you've seen the last few weeks.
Another John question, but he has the second most scores in the country, obviously behind Cam. Kind of 2 parts, I guess. What does that say about your quarterback room? And just did John give any flashes of that, even when he wasn't starting last year, kind of sitting behind Cam and just getting to see all that develop? Oh,
yeah. You could see it coming with John. That's why we even put him on the field with Cam last season. We threw John a pass last year. He did throw an interception last year with the kind of the reverse deal, I think, in one game. But John is just full of talent, and his moxie and his energy and his competitiveness, I think we could always see that. Really proud of what Cam's doing. And never forget, he's a Washington State grad, right? So, he'll bounce back this week too. And they always had a great rapport that I thought they were both themselves. And John has done a good job not trying to be Cam. I think sometimes when you see success in front of you, you just want to replicate how they did it, instead of saying, I'm going to have a lot of success through my own journey and path. And I think that's probably what John has done the best so far this season is just being him. And those are big shoes to fill. I mean, come on, those are big shoes to fill. So proud of him really taking that mindset throughout his journey and really being his own best player. Because I think sometimes there's a perception out there of pressure that I think John's done a good job of handling.
John question. I wanted to revisit your.
I like John questions. It's
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, I wanted to revisit your comment. You said he was the best quarterback on the West Coast, and stats certainly back that up. But what's your case when you talk about that?
Well, I just believe in John, and I get to see John every day, right? So it just there's a unique talent, there's a unique personality. I think there's a really special drive, and I'm very biased, right? But I believe in John and what he can do and what he's provided our team in all facets, and it's been impressive to watch. And to do that with, I'm sure there's tons of distractions. I'm sure our roster is the most scouted roster in the country, right? So to have him handle everything that's coming his way and to be able to perform this way and give everything like he does to his teammates, that's why I say that. He's a unique blend of talent, and I think he utilizes every skill set that he has.
And then, of course, late in the fourth quarter, John's still out there. What's the kind of your thinking and your reasoning for keeping him in the game, having him run, and even with that lead?
I think we had to go shut the door. I think there's a mentality to it. There's aggressiveness to it. I think we started that series with about 5 minutes on the clock and wanted to see those guys go out there and do it, and they finished the drive and did what we asked them to do. All right, go Cougs.